The air in Trump Tower's boardroom was thick with tension, the kind that made even the most seasoned advisors shift uncomfortably in their seats. This wasn't a debate about policy or a strategy session for the next campaign. This was personal. This was Donald Trump, the former president and patriarch of the Trump empire, facing off against his youngest son, Barron Trump. The stakes were high, not just for their relationship, but for the future of the Trump legacy itself. Donald Trump sat at the head of the long, polished mahogany table, his presence as commanding as ever. Dressed in his signature navy blue suit and red tie, he leaned back in his chair, his fingers drumming lightly on the table. His sharp eyes studied Barron, who sat directly across from him. Barron, just 17 but carrying himself with a poise that belied his age, met his father's gaze without flinching. His hands were clasped neatly on the table, his expression calm but resolute. The advisors around the room were silent, their eyes darting between father and son. They had seen Donald Trump in countless high-pressure situations, but this was different. This wasn't a political opponent or a business rival. This was his son, and Barron wasn't backing down. Donald broke the silence first. "All right, kid," he said, his voice steady but edged with authority. "You've got a lot to say, huh? Let's hear it." Barron didn't hesitate. "I do," he replied, his voice calm but firm. "Things need to change, Dad." Trump raised an eyebrow, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "Change? What needs to change?" Barron leaned forward slightly, his blue eyes locking onto his father's. "The way we're doing things. The way you're doing things. It's not working anymore." The room seemed to grow colder. One of the advisors cleared his throat nervously, but neither Trump nor Barron acknowledged it. Donald's smirk faded, replaced by more serious expression. "Not working?" he repeated. "You think you know better than me?" Barron shook his head. "I'm not saying I know better. I'm saying I see things differently. And if you don't start seeing them differently too, you're going to lose." "Lose?" Trump's voice rose slightly, his fingers stopping their rhythmic tapping. "Lose what?" "The people," Barron said simply. "The ones who believed in you. The ones who got you here." Trump leaned back in his chair, his arms crossing over his chest. "I still have them," he said confidently. "I still have more support than anyone else in this country." "For now," Barron replied. The room seemed to hold its breath. "But if you keep going like this, they're going to walk away, and once they're gone, they're not coming back." Trump's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond immediately. Instead, he studied his son, as if trying to figure out where this newfound assertiveness was coming from. "You think you understand this game?" he asked finally, his tone challenging. "I understand the people playing it," Barron replied. "And I understand what they want." Trump scoffed. "Oh, yeah. And what do they want, huh? You think they want me to start apologizing? To act like one of these weak politicians?" Barron shook his head. "They don't want you to apologize. They want you to listen." The room fell silent again, the weight of Barron's words hanging in the air. Trump's expression hardened. "I listen," he said, his voice defensive now. "I listen to the people who matter." "And that's the problem," Barron shot back. "You think some people matter more than others. That's not leadership, Dad. That's favoritism." Trump's nostrils flared and he leaned forward, his hands gripping the edge of the table. "That's called being a leader, kid. You can't please everyone." "But you can't ignore them either," Barron said, his voice rising slightly. "You got elected because people believed in you. They believed you would fight for them. But now they feel like you're fighting for yourself." Trump's eyes narrowed, and for a moment it looked like he might explode. But then he took a deep breath, his fingers drumming on the table again. "All right," he said, his voice calmer now. "Since you seem to have all the answers, tell me, what should I do?" Barron hesitated for the first time, his confidence wavering slightly. This wasn't just a theoretical debate anymore. His father was challenging him to put his ideas into action. He took a deep breath and leaned forward. "You need to stop looking backward," he said. "Stop talking about what you've done and start talking about what you're going to do." Trump raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" "Prove to them that you're still fighting for them," Barron said. "Not for your legacy, not for your brand, for them." The room was silent, the advisors exchanging uneasy glances. Trump didn't respond immediately. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled in front of him. "You think it's that simple?" he asked finally. "It's not simple," Barron admitted, "but it's necessary. If you don't change, they're going to walk away. And once they're gone, you're not getting them back." Trump studied his son for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "All right," he said, his voice firm. "You've made your point. But let me ask you something, Barron. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? What's your plan?" Barron stood as well, his posture straight and confident. "I'd stop worrying about winning and start worrying about leading," he said. "I'd stop talking about the past and start talking about the future. And I'd make sure the people knew I was fighting for them, not for myself." Trump didn't respond immediately. Instead, he walked around the table, his hands clasped behind his back. When he reached Barron, he stopped and looked down at his son. "You've got guts, kid," he said finally. "I'll give you that." Barron met his father's gaze without flinching. "I learned from the best." Trump chuckled, a rare, genuine smile crossing his face. "All right," he said, clapping Barron on the shoulder. "We'll see." As Trump walked out of the room, the advisors let out a collective breath they hadn't realized they were holding. Barron remained standing, his expression calm but thoughtful. One of the senior strategists approached him cautiously. "That was impressive," he said. "Do you think he'll listen?" Barron shrugged. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I had to try." The strategist nodded, a hint of respect in his eyes. "Well, for what it's worth, I think you got through to him." Barron didn't respond. Instead, he turned and walked out of the boardroom, his mind already racing with what came next. The battle wasn't over, but for the first time, he felt like he had a chance to make a difference. Thank you for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating tales. See you next time.